All right, well, good evening, everyone. Welcome here to City Hall. Whether you're here in the Rotunda or if you're joining us online, welcome to the follow-up presentation presented by the Dover Coal team. All of the information and all of the wonderful feedback that we got back at the end of January, they took this information and went back and did what they do. Some meetings with staff and everything, and they've now just got a really great presentation and again, feedback driven by the community. You're going to see the presentation and all the information and, nearly 200 participants and feedback again a few months ago. So we are so excited to host you here tonight. My name is Jonathan Hayes. I'm the city manager. I've never met you. And again, on behalf of the mayor and the city commissioners, we want to thank you so much for your engagement on this important matter for our city. We're going to again go through the presentation tonight. If there are any questions where you'd like some clarity or maybe just a little bit extra feedback, we're welcome to take that. We'll have a paper survey to pass out. And as always, you can email citymanager@panamacity.gov. But again, the information that we're presenting tonight is already based on that great community feedback and engagement back from the end of January. So again, thank you for taking time out of your evening to be here. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Amy Groves with the Dover Coal team. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Amy? Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Good evening. It's great to be with you all. As Jonathan mentioned, we're here tonight following up on a few workshops we had in January, and I see a few familiar faces in the crowd, so it's good to see you back, and a few new faces. So we had a series of work sessions, January 21st and 22nd, where we imagined what the Marina could be together, and we got a lot of really great feedback. So I'm going to talk and summarize a bit of what we heard, and then I'm going to turn it over to Claire Williams, who will walk through some illustrations that we've done based on what we heard in the weeks since, and then we'll love to get your feedback on it. As Jonathan mentioned, we had over 170 people come through over the course of a couple days, and with meetings and give lots of really great input. We've put together this summary document that's going to be posted to the website, so y'all don't worry about reading every word right now. There'll be plenty of time to scrutinize over it, but again, just want to hit a few of the highlights. We had meetings where we had these visual preference survey boards. You may have remembered they had photos of civics and open spaces, commercial buildings, residential buildings, and marina services. And we gave people green dots and red dots, and we told them to put the green dots on the ones that they liked the most and the red dots on the ones that they didn't like as much. And it was really interesting way of having brainstorming and kind of breaking the ice and starting to think about the physical environment and what the possibilities are for the marina site. So, the things we heard about, small-scale waterfront dining, the importance of the boat ramp, boat trailer parking, public restrooms. But you can see here the 4 photos on this page. Those were the ones that had received the most green dots. So this, again, was not an official vote, but it is just an interesting way of, for the people who decided to come out that night, kind of understanding their preferences in terms of commercial spaces and open spaces and things that they responded to. We also had a number of different ways for people to give input. There was some maps and places where people could just leave thoughts on things that were exciting to them. And then we also had a long exit survey. So I'm going to hit on a few of the highlights. So in the open-ended question, the things that people were talking about the most, they talked about attractions and education, ideas for an amphitheater, and also a marine science center came up quite a bit. And then also 21% of the responses talked about parks and open spaces. So, really wanting to have a family-friendly environment. That was mentioned a number of times at destinations where family could come and enjoy the waterfront and recreation opportunities. 20% of the responses talked about marina infrastructure, making sure that it's still usable for the folks who want to come and use the boat ramp and boat ramp parking, and also services like the fuel dock and then the idea for having things like restrooms and other facilities that would serve serve the Marina area. And then finally, commercial and residential development, the idea of having a village-like atmosphere that extends, you already have great things happening in downtown, so kind of extending that onto the waterfront site was an idea. So we asked people what types of gathering spaces they'd like to see. The two that received the most votes were quiet, open waterfront areas, as well as flexible multi-use spaces. But I think our big takeaway was that there's an opportunity for many different types of open spaces on the Marina site, along with opportunities for development and opportunities. We asked if the Marina should prioritize many small spaces or one or two large signature spaces, but overwhelmingly 80% a balance of both. So again, I think a lot of the themes of what we're hearing is kind of balancing all these different needs and desires of what the community would like to see the Marina site used for. We asked some open-ended questions, and so here's a few quotes that you can see for what people thought the Marina should become in the future. There was desire for it to be the center point for life downtown, a central hub that celebrates the culture, fishing, art, and music, destination for traveling boaters, and publicly accessible space to see the water. What things should be non-negotiable as part of reuse or improvements of the Marina site, protecting marine life, having public access, ingress and egress by all means, including walking, cycling, and driving. We asked what was the most important things to protect or preserve as the Marina changed, and you might be starting to hear some multiple themes, the boat ramp, the boat slips, family-oriented activities, fishing was mentioned quite a bit, waterfront views, marine life, green space. Housing was actually a good topic of discussion over the 2 days because there was a lot of feedback about concerns about if there was only housing on the Marina, then it would feel very private, and nobody wanted to see that because, again, the desire to have a public space. But when we talked about mixed use development and things that had commercial ground floors, that started to have, and the idea, again, of extending what's already in your downtown and in Harrison onto the Marina site, got a lot of people kind of excited about that. So that was an interesting feedback over the 2 days. We also heard a lot about the importance of maintaining the working marina. You see that question here, and that, of course, is a priority for the site. Who should the Marina primarily serve, the local community or regional visitors? 71% both, as long as it still feels local. So, not wanting to create a destination that's just for people who are not here, but creating a destination that everyone can enjoy, but that feels uniquely Panama City. And go on to the next, some other quotes. What concerns you the most? Wanting to build resiliently and be prepared for future storms. Keeping the Marina public and functional was important. Attempting to maximize the income while also keeping it public and green. So again, about balance and trying to figure out how we can achieve multiple goals with the site. What excites you the most for the future? The idea for more activity and social engagements, boats, recreations, and jobs, what it can mean for all Bay County residents and visitors to have this site usable again. So again, all of this is in that report. Y'all can dive in and read through all the various answers we got. It's really interesting to us. But we read through all of the input, all the surveys, and kind of boiled down to the main themes that we heard over and over again. And so this was a kind of our working list of, if we're going to make a plan for the Marina site, what should it achieve? So first and foremost, public access and having a civic waterfront. So again, mentioned having a destination for residents and families with waterfront views, waterfront walking paths, very important to the community. Making it human scale, so walkable, shaded, having gathering spaces and places that people could enjoy. Enhance and preserve the marina infrastructure. So again, wanting to have the place for the boat ramp, boat trailer parking, boat slips, fishing, but then also some new amenities like restrooms and a marina store, and ideas like that. The seamless connection to Harrison Avenue and extending the downtown energy onto the marina site was, mentioned over and over again, and really just wanting to have a pedestrian as well as a visual extension of downtown onto the waterfront site. And then last but importantly, having fiscal responsibility and bringing long-term value. So allowing for improvements that could be phased over time that can help to strengthen the local economy and the tax revenue. So again, a long list, but, or not a long list, but a tall order, I should say, but one that we are working on to achieve. So. And then from that list and all of the place-specific ideas people had, we also created this synthesis map. So again, kind of a working map of taking all of the many ideas and putting them onto one piece of paper. And so from this diagram, we then created the plan sketches that Claire will walk you through. But the few things you can see here, the yellow area is an opportunity area, kind of in the central part of the site. Again, that idea of extending from Harrison onto the site and having a real connection, extending downtown onto the site. But you can see the large gray box, also protecting that boat trailer parking area that will be part of the site. For the T-Dock area, there was lots of ideas about having linear parks, but potentially having shade pavilions or other things that would make it interesting to walk in that area where you see the green arrows. The waterfront promenade, again, that idea came up many times. They've already built part of it around the hotel, so continuing that and having that walking, cycling path all the way around the site. Important. And an idea for having, you can see where the green circle is, a signature park space. So there's some smaller greens of different types, but then also having a gathering place for the community to have where you can all get together and have special events. So again, just a kind of a synthesis of ideas that all came together. And I am going to now turn it over to Claire from our office, and she will walk you through what we have drawn in response to those ideas.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks for having me tonight. We're excited to be here and present our work in progress design with you all, and I'm happy to walk you through how your comments inferred the design. So we pulled back and looked just broadly at other successful marinas around the country and waterfront areas to make sure that we were rooted in the correct scale comparison, looking at block structure, amount of open space allocated, and make sure that we're really grounded in historic precedents that are already successful, walkable, vibrant, and marina focused. Of those, Seaside is in there, the Charleston waterfront, Annapolis Wharf in Maryland, Orange Beach, Newport, St. Pete, Nantucket. And we picked these for a vast amount of reasons. Some are more dense than we would do, and some are too light development. And so we were just trying to find that middle ground. So like Amy described, we had the synthesis map that was born from the community workshop back in January, and these were your drawings on the map. And we took that and converted it to our first initial sketch plan. And you'll see there that all of the same ideas of having a mixed-use shops running down Harrison now have taken life and form, where you see that we've continued the existing building structure down Harrison with those red buildings that you see marching down Harrison Avenue, connecting Harrison Bar and Grill to north of Government Street. You'll also see that we prioritize development at a higher elevation, so you can see the FEMA flood map overlaid onto this sketch plan. The blue is some of those greater VE, AE FEMA zones. We try to take most of the buildings out of that just to help lower costs and also be more sustainably minded, and develop on the high ground in the yellow areas. So you can see that there. And then we utilize the lower lying areas, not for just leftover space, but for park space that can accommodate events and fireworks shows and just places for people to join and gather. We also really critically, with these green spaces that are so important to the community, we wanted to front them with buildings so that there was a really nice frontage. It's human scale, it feels walkable, and you'll see that there. So, taking that from a sketch to a true site plan, you'll see on the right, we've incorporated additional parking. We've been able to quantify the open spaces, and you'll see the small building footprints that you already have historically north of Government Street continue south of Government Street with small 1,000 to 3,000 square foot building footprints rather than large big box shops. So this is the existing site plan. This is just a drone shot that we took and then rendered it really quickly. And this is the after. So this is one development scenario from that site plan. So this assumes 1 to 3 story buildings, very small footprint with a lot of open space. And that was the feedback that we received in January. So I'm going to walk you through those big ideas that Amy stepped through, the 5 big ideas. I'm going to walk through how each of those were achieved in the site plan that we have. The big idea number 1 was public access and civic waterfront. The marina should primarily serve as a public waterfront destination. So really focusing on access, views to the water, waterfront walking path, fishing areas, shaded pavilions, generous green space. You'll see we have 4 primary parks. A is the amphitheater lawn and park that is where the cursor is. Hopefully you can see that. B is a waterfront lawn. C is a central lawn on the T-dock. So you've already got that, but we've expanded it somewhat. And then you've got the T-dock linear parks. So just making it more habitable for families and children. You could have playgrounds there, shaded pavilions with swings. I think a tiki bar was thrown out at one point, but preserving those western views to the sunset and for fireworks shows. We've also got sunset swings that line the western side of the T-dock so that, that all these things would be public. Quickly, the large green space that's on the east side could actually hold up to 7,000 people for an amphitheater, but a lot of feedback we got from the community was that was a little too large, that maybe something more like 2,000, which to help you quantify that, Seaside Amphitheater is this shape and is about 2,000 people. So just kind of feeling that out, what we're saying is you can still have a lot of open space, but it can be programmed so that part of it's used for an amphitheater, and part of it, the dark green, could be a playground or a passive park with fountains and footpaths, or you could leave that for the future to maybe one day expand and have a larger amphitheater. So you've got a lot of options here. For public access, the blue is the primary vehicular access, and the orange is the primary pedestrian access. You can see that waterfront promenade extending along the east side, and then we've got loading and drop-off along the T-dock. Big idea number 2 is enhancing and preserving marina infrastructure. So here you'll see that we incorporated the design you already have, preliminary design from engineers on the bottom left, and really started looking at how can we enhance the boat slips that are coming, the boat trailer parking that has been promised, and the boat ramp. All those are fixed and will stay in this plan. What we've added here are the shaded pavilions, a potential marina supply store on the T-dock. It could include restrooms, showers, open to the public, and small kind of grab and go type things, as well as the fuel dock. I'll step back one moment. One of the reasons we didn't add more buildings onto the T-dock was we were preserving waterfront views. Right now, when you stand on Harrison, you can still see the water. And so by pushing that building a little further back, you can still see the water, but you've got some activation. But also with FEMA regulations, you can absolutely build buildings there, but it just has more regulations. So you can always look at increasing or decreasing whatever seems appropriate with the community. This is also part of the marina infrastructure. This is the new proposed section. of the for the T-dock. So you've got vehicular flow all the way through the T-dock like you have now. You've got loading and drop-off parking spaces, and then you can access the actual dock from the T-dock here, as you can see with the orange arrows. Idea 3 is that seamless connection to Harrison Avenue. So we've got the existing streetscape project that is just wrapped up. This would be continuing that same section down the T-dock to, which would end right at Harrison's Bar and Grill, and then split on the T-dock. The fourth is, let's make this really comfortable human scale. And the ways that you do that is ensure that buildings always face the public spaces, really create that sense of enclosure. You continue your great street improvement extension from Harrison Avenue down that's already human scale with the wider sidewalks. And then with the T-dock enhancements, just making it more habitable. It's hot and dry right now. And so having some shade, with whether it's trees or pavilions and those swings, will really help, as well as playgrounds and such. And then the small scale building footprints will really enhance the character and make sure it still feels of Panama City. And the fifth is the financial or fiscal responsibility and long-term value. Now, PFM is also a consultant that we'll be working with, so this is just a first pass at the phasing. But the strategy here was, how can you create amenities and value and tie it to development that generates tax revenue? So each phase has that amenity and value tied to development. So phase 1, Western Basin improvements with boat trailer parking and that waterfront path. Then phase 2, Harrison Avenue streetscape and site infrastructure and development parcel prep. So this is saying that you do the horizontal infrastructure in incremental phases. Phase 3 is the Eastern Basin amphitheater and the Eastern development parcel prep. And then phase 4 is T-dock improvements and the Western parcel prep. Now these are from, like I said, placemaking standpoint and just trying to balance that amenity and fiscal responsibility, but it will need to be further reviewed from a fiscal standpoint from the financial consultants. So I'm going to run you through a development scenario for those that want to hear about the numbers. So this scenario, the ground floor building footprints are 1,000 to 3,000 square feet, roughly. The average building height is 3 stories, with the height ranging from 1 to 3. And then if we have calculated residential, we've assumed an average unit size of 900 square feet. Now, these are assumptions. Should the feedback be, we want more development, we could raise the height. If you want less, lower, and so on. It is pretty flexible. What's important is that the lot depth and width are the size of your historic grid. So with those assumptions in place, this development scenario shows 96,000 square feet of commercial on the ground floor. We heard from the community that so that it feels public and accessible, the ground floor should primarily be commercial. So for this one, to keep it clean, all of it's commercial, which would be around 96,000 square feet. Residential, being on the 2nd and 3rd floor, would be 160,000 square feet, which comes out to about 152 units, roughly. For parking, while only ADA parking is required, we're providing 545 spaces on site and supporting additional demand through nearby shared parking, which allows us to meet projected demand in the downtown environment. But we had a lot of people say, please don't pave over Paradise and have this all just be parking. We can walk 5 minutes. We want this to be green space and amenity and vibrant and human scaled. So we tried to balance that. For the days where you do have event day parking, it would be managed through shared parking and event operations. And we do have a couple of scenarios where we look at adding a garage here. That may be popular and it may not be, but we have that as an option or a scenario. So this is the existing. This is the scenario 1 that we just walked through. And now, just quickly, we'll flash a couple of other development scenarios so you can get a feel for. They're not big changes. They're pretty small and tailored to the feedback we got. So development 1, development 2, I'll flip back a couple of times, see if you can catch the difference. It's those 4 buildings facing the existing lawn on the west side. That, from a human scale public frontage, it would be really great to have buildings facing the park if that partnership arises. Development scenario 3 would be adding a garage. This one's a 3-bay, 2-story, which is 3 levels of parking. You could also do a 2-bay parking garage, and it would fit. This is just kind of to show it fits if it's needed. And 4, switching back to 4, just adds a second story to the event space or to the building on the T-dock. As you see there, in development scenario 3 and all the others, it's just a 1-story structure with restrooms, showers, maybe a Marina supply store. If you did a second story, you might have the opportunity for events and revenue generation. So quickly on those 3, the big takeaways would be scenario 2 is somewhat expanded development. Still only 110,000 square feet of commercial, 178 units, and then the existing hotel. So it's increased density slightly with enhanced public space. Scenario 3 is increased on-site parking capacity, and scenario 4 is increased development on the T-dock. So for tonight, that concludes my presentation of where we are with the design from the feedback, and we would like to get more input from you all. We have 3 ways to gather that feedback. One will be to fill out an exit survey, which was on the table when you entered. There's some pins there, and you can either return it tonight, or you can take a picture and email it, or additional comments to the city manager's office through Friday. And we will have a Q&A tonight as well. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Jonathan, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Claire, for that. And I just, again, want to express our appreciation for all of you coming out. We are more than happy to entertain any Q&A at this time. I do want to point out we do have Mayor Branch, Commissioner Hughes, and Commissioner Lucas are here. Afterwards, not really have like a formal type of interaction time, but if you'd like to, share any of your concerns or thoughts with them, please do so. Also saw we have County Commissioner Doug Crosby here. Both of our marinas and the downtown districts are both in his county commission district. So if there are any concerns with the county, I'm sure the commissioner would love to hear from you. So we're passing out the surveys. If you have any questions, do let us know. We're going to pass around a microphone only because we're streaming this online. And I did fail to point out that this was streaming. We did record it, and it'll be published sometime tomorrow or Monday at the latest. If you want to watch it again or have the presentation, we're also going to share the presentation out of our communications department. So certainly happy to do that. Are there any questions that anybody would like to ask to get anything clarified from either Amy or Claire? Just wait for the mic to come to you for the benefit of those online. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like her to review the supply building up in front of the Parkway, just north of the 9/11. The large. Now, is that restaurants?
It's an event space, not supply or restaurant. Event space.
Event space. And so it could be 1-story, 2-story at some time, right?
That's right. It shows 2 different scenarios. So a few of the scenarios show it as 1 story, and again, that could be, just restrooms and kind of things that are supporting the marina area. The idea with we did one more scenario that has a larger building, 2 stories, with the idea that maybe you could have like an event space, something else out on that edge.
Why would you need? I'm not finished. Why would you need showers?
That was something that was brought up a lot during the community feedback.
The what?
That was something that was brought up a lot during community feedback as a desire from the community to have that amenity.
Okay, the restrooms and the showers create an opportunity for the homeless to come down there. And I don't see where, especially showers aren't really needed.
Yeah, I'm sorry, if you just, we got people online, if you'll pass them the mic. I do know that showers and bathrooms are pretty standard at marinas. You know, folks come and go for the day, and so that is something that is, we went and toured a number of marinas over the last few months, and that's actually something that's very common.
Okay, I want to
Yeah.
add one thing.
Okay, one more, then we'll
Yeah,
give someone else a chance.
That whole building there just does two things. Destroys the visual view shed coming into the marina, and it also destroys the opportunity for 4th of July celebration, because that's where all the people went. That's where the band was. That's where you can see out to the bay. So it completely destroys those two aspects of the marina, the visual and also the opportunity for 4th of July celebrations.
Thank you, Frank. You good? All right. Anybody else? All right, Mr. Hurst?
About, it looks like 3/16 of the main part of the marina, not the T-dock, but the main part, about 3/16 seems to be for parking. I was just curious, on a slide you showed at the beginning where you had multiple marinas from different areas, how much of the space in those marinas were devoted to parking such as this, 3/16?
Yeah, we can go back to the scale comparisons. So the scale comparisons do highlight the block structure, not so much the parking, but just from general knowledge of those places.
Yeah, there, that one.
Yeah, the parking is handled differently in a lot of these places, right? There's some that are more urban and walkable that are here that there's less parking. And then there's some that are less walkable where they really prioritize the parking and put it as their primary use, and there's a bit more. So there's a range, but it definitely affects walkability and the overall feel.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. He'll come right to you.
I'll get you next, sir. Looking at the boat and trailer parking, how many spots are allocated for boat trailer parking?
About 50.
About 50?
Yes, sir.
And was that drawing to scale? I mean, it appeared to be a few more. And,
Yeah.
and
it's
from being
probably-
a boater, it appeared to be very tight.
Yeah, it probably is not to scale on this rendering, but I do know we actually have fully designed plans on that for both the enlargement and enhancement of that boat ramp, as well as all the parking spots. We're working to get some grant money for that, and I can assure you that is to scale and appropriately lined out by an engineer. Although I'm sure your rendering is awesome. So.
Yeah, the illustrative plan that you saw there does, the width of that is this the same width. So you've got the same kit of parts. I'd like to argue to say that it's pretty close.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yeah, are y'all going to expand the boat ramp, make it where more boats can launch? I think there was talk about that at one time.
I'm sorry, say that again, sir?
Wondered about, are y'all going to expand the boat launch to accommodate more boats to come in and out instead of having to sit there and wait for 9 boats to come in? And
that is the
and
plan.
out?
We've already got 100% design plans for an enhanced and enlarged boat ramp, very similar to what you saw us do down at Snug Harbor. We're just looking for the funding for that.
And also the parking, if that's anywhere close to scale, it's going to be hard to get a trailer and a truck to pull out of those spots and not be blocked in. Because I know sometimes during snapper season, you might have to unhook your boat trailer from your truck, pull your truck out, and then manhandle your trailer out of the parking place.
Well, I can assure you we have the full design plans, and I'll actually have Ms. Kennedy share those as well that are kind of separate from this, that show that the proper dimensions and turn radius and all that were calculated by Panhandle Engineering. Commission hired them to do that probably a year and a half ago. And it's, again, those plans are fully designed, includes the boat ramp and the parking all the way up to Government Street. So.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Hughes, did you have something to add, sir? But just get to the mic, because we're online. Yes, sir.
With respect to the boat ramp, note Laverne comes down. That is all set up for come down Laverne and go out Laverne. So that's all been set up with enough parking, trailer-wise and boat and truck put together. The engineer designed it with his truck and his boat put together, so that way there's enough space, turning radius and coming in and out of Laverne. So that separates it from the rest of the marina, the necessary coming in and out. Just want to let you know that.
Hey, go ahead, George.
So I know that revenue generation is critical because this thing doesn't come for free. And with that in mind, I thought I heard an overwhelming rejection of putting residences along the marina, and yet your scenarios have a substantial number of occupancies in that. But it went so fast I couldn't add them all up, so I didn't know how that was going to settle out. I mean, I know you've got rental and leasing opportunities for businesses, but I thought that there was a kind of a disdain to put residential on the marina.
I don't know that I would say disdain. There was a desire to limit it to some degree. I think, what was it, 120 or 150? What was the number on the? Yeah, around 150. So there was, one of the options, I think, y'all used a term earlier in my office where you were talking about where it didn't have like a, I don't remember what the term was, like it felt more public, and I think that was important versus feeling like private type space. So there is a way to do residential where you kind of bring in both commercial and residential, and it doesn't feel like this is my lawn, this is my area. And I think we got some positive feedback from that in a very limited capacity. So yes, I understand that's subjective, George, but I would say 150 or so is, there's way more potential for that, but we intentionally scaled it back based on the feedback that we got from the community. Yes, sir.
Yes, has the decision been made about fixed docks versus floating, and systems for sewage pump out for boats? Preferably at each dock would be very nice, but I can understand if one or two stations be available would be good.
Right, so the first 45 or 50 slips are going to be fixed. No final decision has been made for the remaining roughly 150. Some will be floating, some will be fixed, some will have lifts. We'll be doing that in phases, and each phase will require approval by the City Commission. I do believe the plan, though, from just an efficiency standpoint, is there'll be a kind of a common pump out area kind of over in the fuel operation and kind of in that vicinity. But we're working right now. City engineering team is working on the design to provide water, sewer, enhancing some of the stormwater around the entire T-dock. So, yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, curious. In the early slides, there was a pie chart with regard to the survey on residential, and it's 70% no.
Pie chart?
How did 70% no become 162 residential units? And I'm not against the residential units. I'm just trying to understand the process of how did an overwhelming no become 162 residences?
So we did ask a bunch of follow-up questions. So this was one of the questions on the survey. And so then we asked, well, what is it about residential that people don't want to see? And overwhelmingly it was about the privatization and feeling like that the space would not belong to the community. And then we started talking about mixed-use buildings. So what if there was a ground floor commercial space with residences above? And there was a lot more people that were very encouraged by that and liked that. And so again, we were trying to balance this response with that feedback and the feedback that we hear about the fiscal responsibility. And so again, trying to balance all of those things, that's how we got to where we're at. But again, curious, that's why we're checking back in to hear what the community thinks of that. So.
Well, I like to, it's a commercial and comment actually. It's a question and a comment. I like to commend all the, I think Mr. Dover for company for coming with these scenarios. I think all the scenarios very good. It's just the only thing is what I think that is any of these scenarios is not going to bring too much income to the city. The income will be limited. I thought that Marina should be open for all the public, not for only specific people, because I feel here some of this residential will be only the people who are able to afford it to be here and to stay here. I think that is have to be designed in a way. Also, you have maybe more residential, but all in the back, so that you don't block anyone. But also, you have to have that the certain restaurant and certain things to serve the community and to serve the city to bring some more income, and also that the people can come here more. I feel like as people come here only for certain time, not all the time. You need to design that or to add another scenario, which is more, get people more walking inside the marina and really spending money and actually, and I think that is, I can share you some ideas with you. Thank you.
So you have 547 parking spaces that you counted up. Are you counting the ones for the hotel and the restaurant as part of that 540?
Yes.
And you have 200 slips. So you have the hotel, you have the 200 slips, you have the restaurant, and now you're going to put in 150 plus apartments with 547 parking spaces, and you're going to have 2,000 people at your open events. You really think that's going to be enough parking?
I was going to say, so certainly for event days, no, there would not be enough parking on this site. But the idea is that there could be parking in other places in downtown, and there could be, shuttles during an event day, things like that, to where there's shared parking. And so again, we're trying to balance providing enough parking that we think for the everyday need versus, not. We heard a lot of response about not wanting to have wanting to have green spaces here and not wanting to have, pave over Paradise and, this is our waterfront. So maybe there's other places downtown for parking and, within walking distance. And so that's the idea.
Yeah, and I just would add, you could turn the entire T-Dock into parking, Derek, and there's not going to be enough for a major event downtown or out on the T-Dock. So, yeah, folks are going to have to walk. We're also going to have shuttles. And that's pretty standard with these type of events and these type of venues. All right. Anybody else have a question?
Just one more last thing. For having lived here a long time, that T-Dock at the front of it, some days there are going to be rainy days, and it is nice to be able to just drive out there and park and watch the sunset and to watch a storm come in and not have to get out of the car and walk up to a pavilion, but to have some of the existing space at the end of there where you could go fishing and be, using that space for the public. I'd appreciate if you kept some of that. You don't need that many pavilions.
All right, any other questions?
Yes, I noticed in the charrettes, when you had the different stations and the red and green dots, there was no ability for people to do a red or green dot for an education or marine science. So those comments you didn't really count. You just characterized those post-its that saying so many people wanted that. So I didn't see that it's included at all, even though there were quite a few people that expressed an interest for that.
All right. Thank you for that. I don't,
Well, I think we did quantify.
use the microphone. There's people online, yeah.
So is your question, did we quantify the red and green dots for the?
Well, there wasn't an aquarium for them to put a red or green.
Right. It was it was an added sticky note because we had a little space at the bottom right that said what else, because we knew we'd missed something. We hadn't heard from you yet. And so a lot of people did write that, and then they added dots, red and green, to that, and we did quantify that in our larger input summary, and that summary, I believe comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, so the city of Charleston has an aquarium.
You'll need to use the microphone, sir. I'm sorry.
So the city of Charleston that you put up there has an aquarium downtown, and it was excluded from your description. So it was like there was an opportunity for people to put a quantifiable thing. So obviously it's not on here because you didn't, get. Yeah, it's not a scenario at all. I don't see. It's mostly residential and commercial.
Is the Charleston Aquarium downtown, or is it actually out on the marina? What's the square? What is the acreage of their marina compared to ours? It's even smaller. Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Didn't the Museum of Man in the Sea at one time express an interest of coming down to the marina?
They have expressed an interest.
Well, there you are. You want to talk?
Yeah, and just to say, we haven't chosen the elements that are, the uses that are being programmed. Like when we say commercial, that can be a pretty wide use. So we couldn't at this stage select what businesses are going into these shops. So what we're doing is trying to provide a framework that could fit them. And then there are ranges of a marine science center, so of how much space it uses. Some are more suburban and large acreage. That probably wouldn't fit, but the smaller acreage, when we're talking with the design team, we think that it could still fit on here if that is a viable option.
As far as the museum goes, just this for fact, yes, we're always looking to expand, not greatly, but get better and stronger and be part of a community. The museum started off, on the marina under the Four Winds restaurant and everything. So it's a proud part of Bay County. Is there any considerations about some of the other buildings that maybe aren't being used just outside of the marina and things of that nature?
Like along Beach Drive or along
Like Government Street, maybe
Government
that
Street?
federal building, do we know what's going on with that or some?
A private owner owns the old federal courthouse, would love for someone to purchase that, would love for that to be an aquarium, would love for that to be a museum, man of Museum in the Sea, would happy to put you in contact with the right folks.
So the amphitheater is supposed to be 2,000 people, and there was interest in having the downtown be a very quiet area. Even with a 2,000 person venue, you'd still have to have a pretty decent sound system, which would create noise pollution that would cancel out that quiet feel to downtown. Not only that, but you have a lot of local artists that perform outside of restaurants that would also kill their revenue for that reason. And the Florida Panhandle Marine Institute's going to go almost right next door to that amphitheater, and it would absolutely negatively affect the rehabilitating sea turtles that would end up with that noise pollution. Has that been taken into consideration at all?
I mean, we did get mixed feedback from a lot of folks, so we had a lot of excitement for the amphitheater. We did hear about the noise and wanting it to be quiet, as Amy mentioned, that was something. So if there's certain days, the actual programming of it would then be really important. But we did face the amphitheater and the sound system out towards St. Andrews Bay rather than in to try to meet both needs.
Yeah, and I'll just add, through city ordinance and also state statute, both downtown Panama City and downtown St. Andrews are designated as entertainment districts, and there is more flexibility in the noise levels during certain hours because, again, it is an entertainment district. So they're still constrained even to some degree, even in the entertainment districts, but there's also more flexibility than just in regular neighborhoods or in even regular commercial areas in the city. Is there another question?
The St. Joe Company has got where we can only have, 4 events down there?
I mean, that's not entirely true, no, sir.
Okay, well, I was wondering if we're going to build an amphitheater, we'll only be able to use it, 4 times a year at the most, and with the 4th of July taking up one of those events, would it be even feasible to put the money in that sort of thing?
Well, I know that's in conversation with them. I think that this is the type of event that type of venue they would like to see, because it would bring more people to the downtown marina. It would bring more people to the restaurants and to the hotel. So we are allowed, I think it's actually 5 events that we kind of can control all on our own, but we can have multiple events. They're kind of a part of that process, that's all, but there's no prohibition, just to clarify.
Okay, and also another thing is you have a drop-off zone and a loading zone where if you're going to go out there and fish on the end of the T-dock, you have to unload in a certain spot, which is pretty good ways off for an older person or a handicapped person. Where will you park if you were going to go out there and go fishing on the T-dock?
Yeah. So it's labeled as loading and drop off as an idea, but if the feedback is that you'd prefer those to be long-term spaces, that's a management
Well, I prefer to
decision.
drive out on the end of the marina and get
some
my stuff out
families
right
would-
there and park
yeah.
and fish.
Yeah.
And then leave.
Yeah.
When you get older, it's a little bit tougher.
And I think we're balancing feedback from families that are saying we'd love for our kids to be able to play out there while someone's fishing. And because I specifically remember a mother saying, I come out there, I bring my kids, and that we have to leave within 10 to 15 minutes because it's so hot and dry and there's no amenities. So we're trying to balance not a ton of vehicular traffic, but the fishing support. So it's
Well, I
good
see a lot of the
feedback.
green spots right there where, behind the pavilions. And why couldn't that be used for parking, to drive out on the marina and park right there if someone desires to? There's a lot of people that use that marina right now. If you go down there right now, like tomorrow morning, there'll be a lot of people out there fishing. You'll see it. And a lot of older people, they got oxygen tanks on, little hoses going up in their nose. And I'm not lying.
Jared?
Okay, sorry. So kind of building off what he was saying, as far as, I see the pavilions lining both sides there. I know you'd like to preserve the sunset viewing, things like that, from the west side there primarily. Would it be possible to alter the design, since you already have the fuel dock on the other side, to have one side where it could accommodate, like we was talking about for fishing and things like that? It doesn't seem like it'd be a huge change in infrastructure requirements, anything like that, and would, allow the space to be used for multiple activities, and then have a few more accommodations for people. Because the way it's set up there, I mean, I enjoy fishing as well, and before the boat slips are gone there, I use the marina a lot. As a matter of fact, I had my boat there Sunday, but, I've seen a lot of the parking stuff. Would the parking design be similar to Snug Harbor, that you were using that as a reference point earlier for the boat ramp? I know I'm jumping around to multiple topics, but, one, like I was saying, using two different sides of the T-dock for different purposes could be a way to kind of accommodate more people. But as far as the parking for the boat ramps and all that, is that I know you said you'll have some information there, but just so in my mind I'd have a reference.
Yeah.
Is it similar design?
Great question. It's a little different, sir. So it goes from the boat ramp all the way up to Government Street. So it's more like a narrow rectangle, but and then you drive clockwise around the perimeter. I think there's probably an extra lane at Snug Harbor, because Snug Harbor is more of a square versus a rectangle. So you've got a middle lane and then two outer lanes. This one just has outer lanes, and you just drive counterclockwise. Clockwise. Yeah. Someone else have a question? Oh, Jimmy in the back. Great. Yep.
I have a question about the parking. He had a very good question. If we have all these units with parking and there's 2 cars per unit and then businesses underneath, and then if we have 0 special event, there won't be enough parking. And the hotel, you said that you include the parking of the hotel. Well, they have put signs out saying that the general public can't use their parking. We do have a parking area next to it that we can use, but how are you going to get the hotel to let us use their parking when they paid and built it and they have actually put signs up, no parking?
Yeah, I don't believe that they said 2 spots per every unit. So, and that's not something you would typically do in a venue like that. So you can cut that in half. Listen, we understand that there's going to need to be additional parking. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in this. there's talk about a parking garage maybe right off the marina in areas. There's conversations with the Downtown Improvement Board, potentially using that parking lot there literally just across Beach Drive. And so I think there will be, as this moves forward in a very organic manner, the demand, whatever path we decide to go as a city, will help, bring about the additional parking that we need. And that'll be, I think, a collaborative effort between the developers, between the community, and between the city. Anybody else? Derek's got one back in front. Jared?
Yep. Yeah, I think if you design it so that we have no other option, then we'll wind up with a parking garage that's 5 blocks away from the water, and we won't have any choice at that point. It won't be our marina anymore. We'll be just visiting, and we'll have to walk half a mile to get there. I don't think that's going to help the people that live here.
Thank you. All right, Henry?
Intrigued with the concepts, but do y'all have any sort of a timeline and strategy as to how you're going to solicit the developers to incrementally develop this, and what that timeline looks like and where the funding's coming from and anything like that?
No, sir. This is kind of the first step after the public meetings and where we got the information, and that's something that's going to play out over the coming weeks and months as we work together with Dover Coal, with our mayor and city commissioners to start moving this forward, and as well as the St. Joe Company that is part of this. So there is no specific timeline. Again, I think we've said that this type of development is going to happen organically, and we're going to start working on that plan and how to move that forward again in the coming weeks and months.
Is there a plan for when you might be briefing the plan to the public?
There's no timeline right now, but we absolutely will have multiple meetings over the, again, coming months and even over the next 12 to 18 months to keep everyone apprised.
Yeah, there will be then more public meetings like this to discuss the evolution of this.
There will be public meetings and town halls to share what's happening and to get feedback, where needed and appropriate. But again, this is going to be, I think, a very collaborative effort between the community, between the city, between developers, in identifying that, this is we're at the very beginning of that process with, a new commission that has really stepped in the last 6 months.
Okay, so there will be more public meetings.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we have a public meeting every month, right here, 8 a.m. Yeah. It's about whatever the public wants it to be. So it can be about the marina every month if you want it to, Frank.
Say every 6 months is enough.
Oh, okay. We'll hold you to that. All right. All right. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all again so much for coming out. Again, we've got the mayor and Commissioner Hughes and Lucas are here and, more than happy to answer any questions. And we've got County Commissioner Doug Crosby as well. And again, all of this information will be published tomorrow morning on our website. And if you have any more thoughts or questions, please do email citymanager@panamacity.gov, and be sure to fill out that handwritten survey and leave it with any of the city staff or our Dover Coal partners. Thank you again and have a blessed evening.